now that we've looked at the importance of this collaboration between science and media, we thought it would be important to move on to the third arm of building the future of collaboration, which is the role of women in philanthropy. So today it's my pleasure to introduce venture philanthropist and global BrainTrust member, Lola Nashashibi Grace. She is the founder of the Middle East Children's Institute, as well as Women in Science Switzerland, that benefits the Center for Integrated Genetics at the University of Lausanne, and a co-founder of the Impact Cancer Foundation, Switzerland. I'm so happy to have you here today, Lola. Thank you.
Thank you, Mara, and that was a lovely introduction, but also thank you to Andrea and thank you to Meryl Comer for inviting me to be a part of this panel. I'm truly, truly honored to be with all of you distinguished leaders, and it's really a pleasure to be here today. So yes, I'm very happy to talk about my philanthropy.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lola. So we've heard you describe yourself as a venture philanthropist. Can you talk a little bit about what that means and your overall philosophy regarding philanthropy? You know, what does it take to be a venture philanthropist?
Well, I think Steffi said a lot of it in her talk, because there's a lot of synergies and sort of overlap. But to me, my own definition of venture philanthropy, it's really a combination of entrepreneurship, investment of financial resources, venture capital, and charity. And many people ask, is there even a role for philanthropy in today's world, with a focus on impact investing, with socially responsible investing and ESGs, and focus on environment, social and governance? So why is really philanthropy important? And my answer is, it is critically important now more than ever, because those of us who are philanthropists do not really seek a financial profit. And that's the big difference. We take the risk in an investment that investors are not willing to take. So for that reason, we invest our financial capital, but we also invest our human capital. And my own personal philosophy of philanthropy is based on core human values, which I really believe are the essence of humanity today and the future. And those are the core human values, simple things like gratitude, compassion, empathy, and service, helping others. And I think that all of you would agree that when we help others and those in need, there is no greater reward than from giving from one's heart. And I think I was quoted somewhere to say that I am really motivated through my heart and from my heart, and not through profit. So I really believe in that. And similar to starting a company, like any entrepreneur will tell you, what really drives a philanthropist is the passion and the vision and the energy. And that conviction, that strong conviction that drives us every day. You have a brainstorm of an idea and you want to pursue that problem, solve that problem, just like a science researcher will do. I was so impressed, Andrea, when I interviewed you before for the Women in Science, and you said that your passion, your life was to solve this problem of Alzheimer's. And so that I see this over and over again in all the scientists that we support. My epiphany came after 9/11, when I was living in New York and I had just had my 5th child. And all I could see after friends of ours were killed, and all I could see in the media and the news was a world full of hatred, a world full of fear, a world full of violence. And what I could feel in my heart was, what kind of world are we going to leave our children? Each one of us has to take action. Each one of us needs to do something, because we can all bring something to the table. And that's really what inspired me to then, work in the Middle East, being of Arab heritage and being an American. I felt that we had to find ways to bring together, to find our commonalities, and to use women, our experiences as women and mothers, also to solve these problems.
Now that you were saying specifically, you were talking about the Women in Science event, and we know that Andrea was your keynote speaker in your 10th annual Women in Science lecture and lunch. And I think it's exactly that passion for your philanthropy that, has driven a lot of this. So I want to know why, you sort of set out to achieve. What did you want to achieve with Women in Science? And what have you seen as the biggest impact, in this decade that you've been, creating this event and sort of focusing yourself on pushing women towards science?
Well, we started Women in Science really, well, more than 10 years ago, but it all started in New York because I moved to Switzerland 14 years ago, having lived in New York. And I was very, very involved with the scientific community as the vice chairman of the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, for decades. And our family also, my husband's family started the Cancer Research Institute in New York. So we were very heavily, our personal lives were always involved in the engagement and the intersection between business and science. And on a very, very, very tiny scale, not like you, Steffi, but a tiny scale, we would organize dinners with, business leaders, Wall Street leaders, and scientists, exactly to bring to the table to discuss ways that we can collaborate. So when we moved to Switzerland, we really didn't know anybody. It came with my kids, and, we came as sort of independent, private people. And, but we did know two amazing scientists who were at the University of Lausanne. One was Nouri Hernandez, who was the director of the Center for Genomics, and the other was Winship Her, who was the head of the School of Biological Sciences. And because we always support communities in which we live, we asked them, what can we do to support you? What research do you need? What do you need as far as, charity? And they said, we're very well funded in Switzerland. We're very fortunate. The government funds us. We're very, very strong in that. But there is a lack of this intersection between the business and the scientific, community, particularly in engaging the kind of dialogues that we were involved with in New York. So we then set up this fund for education in genetics, and it was not an original idea. I don't take credit for it. The Rockefeller University has been running a Women in Science for years at Cold Spring Harbor. We started the Women in Partnership for Science, and so I just brought that here. And then the other thing that we do with the Fund for Research and Education is we have a symposium every year where we also bring together, really, world-class scientists in a particular area that give a public lecture. And we also bring members of the business community. But as far as Women in Science, the reason for that in particular is to really showcase the work of women scientists, but not just at the highest level, like the Andrea Pfeiffers of the world, or the Melanie Blokeches of the world. We have, this lecture by a very, very prominent women scientist, but we also have 16 tables where we have 2 scientists at each table, and we invite all levels. We invite, PhD postdocs to, junior scientists, to senior scientists, and we have a dialogue where the women share their experiences, their research with the women at the table. And so our women, attendees who are leaders in business and philanthropy, learn from latest developments in science, but we also share our own, experiences as women leaders and guide them. And we've also funded, of course, those women scientists who are at sort of the middle level or critical points in their careers to enable them then to go to the next level in a very competitive field.
It's amazing the work you do. I mean, I've been able to be at 2 of your conferences already, and I've seen the type of women that you're supporting, the sciences that you're supporting, and the work that you're doing. But I think I want to ask you something that I think is very close to both our hearts. It is this idea of philanthropy and how do we go forward. I know you have 5 children, which I think is amazing with all the work you do and the fact that you've been in finance in the past and that, you've developed so many things. How have you done it to have your children so engaged in social projects? What advice would you give for those who wish to pass their social consciousness and philanthropic spirit onto their children, or those who want to, make this world better, but aren't quite sure, how to begin? What would be your best suggestion?
Well, it's very simple. I think it starts with values, right? And lead by example. I think, very clearly, we need to express our own values, our family values to our children, and then just, bring them along. I mean, I was introduced to philanthropy as a young girl growing up in South America. My mother would take me to the favelas in Brazil. My mother would take me to the orphanages in Costa Rica. And so that was my example. She was also very actively engaged with the Arab community when they were living in San San Francisco as an activist. And so again, I learned from my mom, and I've done the same thing with my kids. I just bring them along, whether it's going to Bosnia, whether it's going to visit, the widows of Srebrenica, whether it's taking them to the Middle East, to war zones. I just drag them along. And I really think it's really important for all of us just to make sure that our children know and believe that they can do anything, that they can realize any dream, and that anything is possible, and that each one is different, accepting their individual differences and letting them just know that no matter who they are or matter what they do, what they're doing is important.
I completely agree with you. I think we were both lucky in that sense. And my mother was a guiding force in terms of philanthropy at home. And it does start at home, like a lot of things. But I love the fact that we can put together, the importance of science, the importance of media and philanthropy all together, because we do need to collaborate together. So thank you, Lola, for your insights and leadership in this field. I've enjoyed having you here today, and I so appreciate.
I do want to say about the digital therapy, though. You asked me about MECI. Do I have a minute to talk about that?
You may.
Okay, so the charity that's really the philanthropy that's closest to my heart is the work that we've been doing in the Middle East. And for 15 years ago, we started working in a rural village in Palestine with children who were severely suffering from trauma, school absenteeism, and also from anemia and malnutrition. So we ended up working with the local community, and we developed what we call the child-centered community development model, which is based on education, using sports, arts, music, and psychosocial therapy, but also working with local village women, setting them up as entrepreneurs in a nutritious health program and community service. So all of that, fast forward to 15 years, we have now expanded to 147 schools, working with 30,000 children in Jordan and in Palestine. But more importantly, now as we look towards the future, we are very interested in mental health and the mental health crisis. And we have been talking about technology. We have been working with a startup out of Stanford University and have developed a digital therapy app that addresses anxiety using AI and augmented reality. So sort of the future where we're going now is bringing in technology, not only in the education of the children, but also in therapies. So I just wanted to mention that.
No, you needed to mention this. I think I'm baffled by the amount of work that you do in the scientific space, in the mental health space. And I think this is exactly what we need to show people.